So my name is Ellie. I'm 24 and I live in Watford, just outside of London. I live at home with my family, my mum, my dad, my brother and my dog Amber, who's a princess. So I am diagnosed with intestinal dysmotility, gastroparesis, and I also had surgery for 2 vascular compressions, SMA syndrome, supramesenteric artery syndrome, and nutcracker syndrome. And I first started experiencing symptoms when I was 16, and they slowly evolved to the point where I couldn't hold down any food or water. I was vomiting up to 40 times a day, and I was just so malnourished to the point that I was bedbound. And as a result of that, I was put on artificial nutrition, TPN, total parenteral nutrition, which I have now been on for about 6 years. And, you know, for a very long time, I had no hope or prospects for my future. Many doctors would say to me, you know, this is it, you've just got to get used to it, this is how your life is going to be. And I mean, to the point where actually I was discharged under palliative care, which I spent my 19th birthday in our local hospice. So as you can imagine, it was a very difficult time for me. But thankfully I had my mum, who was my biggest advocate and supporter. She found this vascular surgeon in London, and eventually got to the point where I was able to have surgery, the Roux-en-Y gastrojejunostomy, which is basically very similar to a gastric bypass, and it changed my life, really. I was able to eat and drink again. I'm now able to live a very fulfilling and happy life. So I went to my GP, who just were not very supportive. He basically called me a silly little girl. One of the things he said was, there are people your age fighting for our country, go home and pull yourself together. And that was just a common theme for throughout my journey. Like for the next 2 years, that was pretty much the standard everywhere I went. People just didn't believe me. They thought I was anxious or anorexic or dramatic in some kind of way, and it really wore down my spirit because I was young, I had no knowledge of myself, I also was not strong enough to advocate for myself. If I didn't have my mum to step in and do all of that for me, I don't think I would be where I am today. She fought for me when I couldn't fight for myself, and she kept me going at my lowest points, and she kept pushing even when the doctors had said to me, there's nothing else we can do. She would spend all day with me in the hospital doing the things that I felt like I couldn't do, in terms of arguing with doctors or, you know, making sure that I had all the things that I needed. And then she would come home at 10 o'clock at night and go onto the internet and research and put out cries for help in different forums and on different social media platforms. I was put on Patients Know Best as soon as I was put on TPN, and I mean they came and explained it to me, and why I was very lucky that one of the nurses came and explained it to me, and why it was important, particularly when you're on TPN, to have access to your blood results, to be able to contact the team whenever you needed to. And at that time, I didn't really think much of it, but it's been such an important tool for me throughout my journey, and really been crucial at times in making sure that I get access to the help that I need. I would say for me the most important tools as part of the system has been being able to access my blood results. Obviously I have a central line, so that that there's a big infection risk when it comes to having a central line open wound, basically. And so when I go in for my line cultures, I can have access to that and make sure that everything is as it should be, that there's no infection in there. And, you know, also just being able to monitor my nutrient levels and the different levels of things, so I can flag things if I need to. So during COVID, I was in hospital for a bowel blockage, and that's what I was in there for. So it was something completely not related to my TPN or my line, and they did line cultures just in case. You know, at that point they were doing COVID tests and everything, like a full works basically, before they would move you into the main ward. And it was the weekend that I had come in, so it was pretty quiet. There was no consultants there, it was all registrar doctors, and I got a notification through my email that my blood results had been uploaded. I think it was quite late at night, or at least in the evening at that point, and I just thought, you know, I'll have a look and see. And I was able to see that they had flagged that there was a certain kind of infection there, and it gave me all of the information. It told me what kind of infection it was, what antibiotics it was resistant to, and I just thought to myself that, like, I'm going to flag this with a nurse. Like, I'm going to say, is this something I should be worried about? And so I showed the nurse, and she was like, oh, okay. She went away. She came back with a doctor, and he said, yes, you have this infection. Thank you for flagging it, because we can now start the antibiotics, like now, basically, and get it treated quicker. So, you know, that was very vital for me, because if it had been left, if I hadn't have seen that, it would have waited over the weekend, and, you know, maybe it could have progressed and it wouldn't have been treated as quickly as it was. I think as a young woman, obviously I've had experiences throughout my whole journey before I was seen by St Mark's where I just wasn't believed, I wasn't taken seriously, but having patients know best and having access to my data, but also being able to access my consultants at literally any time through the messaging system, if I'm going, let's say, to a GP appointment, because there are things that you can't bother St Mark's with. If there's anything minor, you're going to have to go to your GP. But I think having patients know best and being able to, like, show my data to them and say, look, I have access to this, or my consultant has told me this, it just gives me more confidence as a young woman going into an appointment like that to be taken seriously. I think it would save so much time, so many resources. I think there have been many instances where I have been able to message one of my nutrition nurses, or Simon Gabe, my consultant, or even a dietitian, and say, look, I'm having these symptoms, I'm really concerned that maybe there's an infection going on, or something's not right with my TPN or my nutrition, and they can give instructions, because obviously St Mark's is a specialist hospital, there is no A&E there, so if I have a line infection, the instruction is to go to A&E to then be moved to St Mark's in time, and there have been instances where I have been able to flag that. I've been brought into the rapid access clinic, they've given me test results, sent me home, said, through patients know best, this is a line infection, go to A&E. And by the time I've got there, because the team have been flagged and have the results through patients know best, they have sent that on to A&E, and I have been fast-tracked through, which has improved my care. So for me, like I still, like when I tell people that, they're like, oh my goodness, wow, that's incredible. And it is incredible when you look at how stretched the healthcare system is, how long people are waiting to be seen, or for people to figure out what's happening. I mean, before I had Patients Know Best, I would go to A&E and have to explain my whole medical history to them, and it would take up hours. Or they would be like, okay, well, you need to see gastro, and then they'd send for a gastro, you know. But for this instance, by the time I had got there, they knew what was wrong. They'd known my name. They said that they'd spoken to St Mark's, and I could get the treatment that I needed quicker. So I think before I had Patients Know Best, I was very ignorant. I don't know if that's exactly the right word, but I think I just did not have the knowledge that I needed all the way through my journey, really. I think if I had had access to, you know, even just like the test results and, you know, just the information that is available on the system, it would have given me so much more control and I think confidence in myself as a patient. And I think that having access to that now has changed me as not just a patient but also as a person, in terms of knowing what is the best thing to do for myself, for my health, and to be able to live the life that I am able to live, you know. I think it's a value for everybody. I mean, what happened to me, I was completely healthy. It came out of the blue. It happens all the time to people where suddenly they are faced with these health challenges that they didn't have before. Their life can change in a blink of an eye. And I think that having access to that, you suddenly need to have all of this knowledge overnight that you didn't need to have before. And I think if we can make people more knowledgeable about healthcare in general, not just health, but the healthcare system in general, it would be so valuable for all aspects of the system, for patients, for doctors, for nurses, just to make things more accessible to everybody.